Welcome for the first time to Tururu English, the podcast section of Yay English, a place made for English learners who want to practice their listening while having fun, and really any person who's in for a good story and a worthy use of spare time. Today, we start the What If series, in which we'll reimagine popular and well known stories and fairy tales. Today's story is Cinderella. Who hasn't heard of the kind and beautiful young lady who was mistreated and then found love in the most unexpected way to finally encounter her happily ever after? But what if something had gone wrong? What if something that we know should have happened does not occur? What if Cinderella hadn't run away at midnight? What if we changed the story and, instead of looking for the owner of the crystal slipper, they met each other as they really were? Okay, so we'll continue the story from here. I'm going to narrate it as a book from this point forward. Remember, this is a personal idea and only for fun. If you have interesting ideas too, don't be shy and share them with us in the comments down below. We'll use different character names from the originals, but I'm sure you'll have no problem addressing them. Let's get started. In a kingdom of old, there dwelt a gentle maiden named Mariella, whose heart remained untainted by the cruelty of her stepmother and the spite of her stepsisters. One enchanted night, by the grace of her fairy godmother, she was clad in a gown of dazzling light and granted entry to the royal ball, where she captured the prince's attention with but a glance. Yet, as the great clock began to toll the 12th hour, the spell that adorned her started to fray. With a start, she recalled the fairy's warning. She pulled herself from the prince's side and fled down the marble stairs, her crystal slipper loosening with each hurried stride, until she vanished into the moonlit dark, leaving behind only a single gleaming shoe and a heart that had just begun to hope. The bells of the toll clock began to sound. Mariella felt numb. Was time already over? Minutes had never felt so short and slippery. After only a moment of doubt, an urgent need to run jolted her from her thoughts, and she started to flee. A vast palace to escape from. She had to descend never-ending steps just to reach the floor below. When she finally reached the outer staircase, she lost one of her luxurious and unique slippers. She made it! Only a few meters until the gate, and then nothing would be discovered. But before leaving the dreamiest night she had experienced in so many years, only a quick glance, just one look before everything became a blur. She jerked to a halt. When she was about to start running again, her mind froze her body. She could have broken free from that mysterious spell her mind had cast upon her if she had only tried. But just then, she took a quick breath, and a thought sprang into her mind. Why would she want everything to disappear? Why would one of the best moments of her life have to evaporate like tea steam? And the worst part, why would she let it happen? Did she really have something to lose? Did she truly like how things had turned out? In the place she had convinced herself to call home, memories were still imprinted on the walls, and many objects that had belonged to her parents still held their particular scent. She had always been a kind person, but in hard times, that virtue did not come from nowhere. When the first insults were spread without reason, when she let her stepmother and stepsisters convince her to take on all the household chores, every day a new excuse was given, a new spiteful thing labeled upon her name. It required great will. And now, after such a long time, everything felt magical, and Mariella was able to enjoy herself. She could let herself go and not worry about her surroundings or the people in them. She found someone she could love and who might love her back. Of course, she had always had people to love after her parents had passed. but not in that strong, deepest kind of way. Added to the constant mistreatment from her stepsisters, Mariella felt she could not trust anyone with secrets beyond what one could consider acceptable. After so long, she yearned for someone with whom it did not require such great effort to be kind all the time, someone she could trust and be happy with again. Honestly, the palace was just a place, and the person she had met that night was still a stranger. Yet it was worth an opportunity. What would happen later was something she could not know or assure. But just then she knew one thing. As things stood, the only thing she'd left was that house. The only place to return to. The place of her childhood and youth. Perhaps this last reason tormented her the most. As worried as she was to lose a roof over her head, she could always find a place to work. Maybe Mrs. Kendrick or one of the good-hearted women she had befriended could help her. And as for what she convinced herself to call a home, well, it had not truly felt like one for so many years now. She knew the prince would probably not accept her. After all, she held no noble title, nor was she the possessor of a fortune that could leave anyone breathless. Neither would she be able to deceive anyone or become wealthy in a matter of hours. But even if it lasted just one night, it had been the best gift she could have asked for. For as she remembered that there is also a good life, she remembered she did not have to live a life that required constant endurance. If life already has its own difficulties and individual struggles, then suddenly it seemed there was no good or strong reason to voluntarily stay and increase them. I mean, she had even come to know her endearing fairy godmother. She had always looked forward to better times, but after what happened that day, she truly believed in them. And if great things can happen, she understood she must not get in the way by making decisions that utterly affect her life without first meditating on the reason behind them. If struggle were inevitable, then one must seek to at least struggle for a good reason. Your Highness, Mariella said, making a slight curtsy. She was no longer dressed as a princess, only a turned frock. For long seconds no one spoke, until the prince was about to utter a word. I am Mariella. I am glad to make your acquaintance, she hurried to say first. A short, almost imperceptible silence followed, so she proceeded. I am not the owner of a great fortune, nor am I a noble woman. You might not believe it, but sometimes magic happens, and it occurred to me this very night. That is the reason I am here, and the reason I wear the dress you saw. Then, with a tone of reflection, she continued, but magic spells can only last for so long. What is real is the thing that remains. Why bother expecting magic in the first place? Why make use of it if everything will return to normal, to how things were? She thought to herself in that instant, and the answer came just as quickly as the question had arisen. Because it is you who decides whether, even after witnessing the possibilities, you go back to how you used to be, and whether you allow things to continue, stay where, even if it starts with a single step, with one bold decision. That is all it takes to take flight, to begin to change. Tonight I felt the spark, and it illuminated the ballroom. Everything was lit, but as we talked, it changed, and small twinkles were all around, gliding and falling only over the two of us. She took a quick breath before continuing. Mariella, the prince interrupted the words that were still to be told. My grandfather has not ceased for several years now in his endeavor to find a spouse for me. He hesitated. If there was a definite moment among the many that present themselves along one's life, he knew this would not be an occasion to be repeated. For many years, even up until tonight, I have had the opportunity to meet women with distinct characteristics and strengths. I learned from their perspectives and ways of doing things, regarding both personal life and matters of reading. But I understood, too, that there was no haste. If I were to commit, It must be with someone I truly love, and not because I am guilted into it or out of a given responsibility. You are right. Magic happens, and once gone, we see things as they really are, but only a bit differently than before. And you are right. Magic happens, and once gone, we see things as they really are, but a bit differently than before. Like eating something delicious, even though the taste will not linger forever. You get to know new flavors. Knowing each other was only one part of everything. I felt it too. But it depends on us, whether to continue or to stop and pretend everything was not meant to be. Our actions are part of that meant to be. The steps we take. Therefore, let us make things right. Taking a step forward, the prince extended his arm towards her, and she did so too. After saying their names to each other, they both laughed nervously, but in a sincere and tender manner. That very night, Mariella returned to the house as quickly as she could, but with a new vision, a new perspective. She knew that if she told her stepmother and stepsisters about everything, they would probably become an unnecessary obstacle in the pursuit of her new future. Therefore, over the next weeks, she arranged everything, including a place to work, asking for help from some people she knew from the marketplace and from those who sometimes helped in the kitchen, before things had grown a little precarious. 7 months later, Mariella had established herself at a house where she worked. The owners were kind people too, although eccentric at times. Mariella came to know them more and more as time passed. Leaving that house was not something easy to do. She still thought about all the memories she had left behind and all that going away meant. She packed everything and went far, far away, to a place where no one knew the name of her stepmother and stepsisters, a place where no one had ever heard of her. A whole new world waited to be explored. She gradually learned things about the prince, and after 3 years of getting to know each other, they decided to marry. Mariella did not yet have the specific knowledge a future queen is required to possess, but she would have a long time to learn about the kingdom and their surrounding lands, more about the people and everything else. There were struggles along the way. Nevertheless, Mariella continued to be kind, and even though the magic twinkles never stopped shining, if not always, then certainly frequently. And the magic twinkles never stopped shining. Even Mariella's fairy godmother occasionally visited her, and they both spent a wonderful time together. And that is how a new chapter begins. This is the end. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya!